All right, well, welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm going to continue to let people in as they pop in as we go. Krista, your kiddo is 6. Well, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And Heidi, you're here for yourself, which is awesome, and it's really interesting. Um, it's not completely dissimilar what we do for children and adults. Children, of course, are not just little adults, so the interventions are very specific, and what we do for them, especially when we get down to testing and supplements and all that kind of stuff, is quite different than what we do for adults. But I'm really glad that you're here too, Heidi, because this underlying information is really key, and it really is about the foundation. And it's about building the foundation. Of course, this is geared towards kids today, but when we are talking about building that foundation and healing from the inside out, the strategies that we implement are similar. And I will say this too, I have been doing this work and specifically focused on children now for, I think, over 8 years. But I used to work with adults. So again, the strategies are similar. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this today as well. I'm just going to let some more people in. All right. Well, I'm going to dive into the actual content and get started. And those of you, as you're popping in, I'd love to know in the chat where you're from, and how old your kiddo is. So again, welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. And, I know that when your child is struggling with their skin, you're struggling too, and it's exhausting. It's physically exhausting, mentally exhausting, it's emotionally exhausting. And you've tried everything, but the rashes, the itching, the sleepless nights, it just doesn't stop. And maybe last night for some of you was another sleepless battle. Heidi, whether it was you or, your kiddo up all night scratching. I hear so often from parents, your children are scratching till they draw blood, and you do everything you can to comfort them, but you just feel helpless. And maybe you even had to skip birthday parties and holidays and family gatherings because the fear that one wrong food could just set off another itchy and painful flare. Or maybe you're spending more time researching than sleeping because your child's not sleeping either in the middle of the night. So if any of that sounds like you, I see you, I hear you, and I want you to know that you are not alone. And today we're going to talk about what's really happening and what you can do to break the cycle for good. So do any of these sound like you? You've eliminated food after food, just hoping for some relief, but the rashes keep coming back. You've cut out dairy and gluten and maybe soy and eggs and nuts and sugar, even all processed foods. I talked to a parent, it was yesterday, who's now trying seed oils and, but nothing really changes in spite of all of these diet changes. You feel like you're constantly chasing food triggers and you're just convinced that the next elimination is going to be the answer and solve the problem. You've done food allergy and food sensitivity testing, or maybe you're considering doing it because you're desperate for clarity, but you still just feel stuck. And maybe you're deep in the rabbit hole of chasing histamine list foods or GAPS diet or paleo or AIP. And it's just feeling that feeling of overwhelm just by all of the conflicting advice out there. You want to expand your child's diet, but you're afraid of flare-ups and you don't really know how to do it safely. And your stress is through the roof and you scrutinize every label. You pack safe foods everywhere you go because you're constantly worried about what your child can actually safely eat. And it's really heartbreaking to watch your child miss out on birthday parties and holidays and special moments while other kids eat freely without a second thought. And despite everything, the rashes still come back. The itching won't stop. You're exhausted, you're frustrated, and you're wondering if there's a way out of the cycle. And if this sounds like you, drop a yes in the chat. And I do want to promise you that there is a way out of this, and I am going to show you how today. Because the truth really is that, Heidi, yes, for you too. Yeah. The truth is that your child's skin or your skin, you're not stuck because you haven't tried hard enough. It's because you haven't, and it's not because you haven't found the right food trigger yet. Okay. The real problem is that everything that you've been told is really focused on managing symptoms and not addressing real root causes, even if you've been led to believe otherwise. And the real truth is that chasing food triggers is keeping your child stuck in the cycle of the itching and the flaring. And that cycle ends today. We're going to break down what's really happening inside the body and finally how to fix it. So this isn't about another diet. It's not about more restrictions or just managing symptoms. This is about real lasting change. It's about more freedom for your child, for your family, and it's about addressing the actual root causes and true healing. Because the bottom line is that healing your child's skin from the inside out is the only way to stop the itching, get lasting relief, and get your life back. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. And we're going to be focusing on a critical piece of your child's skin healing journey. And that's why we're going to be talking about feeding your child with confidence and breaking the cycle of chronic rashes and food reactions. And my goal for you today is that you leave here feeling clear and confident and empowered about what to do next. So also stay tuned to the end because there's going to be a live Q&A. I'm going to answer all of the questions that you have specific for your child. And I also have a fun reward for you for being here today. So in case we haven't met yet, my name's Jennifer. I'm a pediatric clinical nutritionist, and I specialize in helping children with chronic skin conditions like eczema, hives, psoriasis, ongoing infections, and others. And if you're wondering why I do this work, it is personal. My dad was diagnosed with psoriasis when he was just 6 years old. And as a child, I remember watching himself slather himself in steroid creams, and then he would wrap saran wrap around it. And we had this conversation like a couple weeks ago because we were talking about this because I knew I was going to talk about this. And so I brought it up to him and I said, yeah, I just remember, you wrapping the saran wrap around. And, I kind of jokingly said, I'm like, because mom probably didn't want the creams all over the sheets, right? So she didn't have to wash the sheets. And my dad said, no, it was to maximize absorption. And I was just like, wow. Okay. So anyway, so some of my earliest memories of my father were just walking around the house wrapped in saran wrap to maximize the absorption of his steroid creams, hoping to get some relief. So by the time I was 10 years old, he developed psoriatic arthritis. And for 40 years now, he's relied on steroids, immunosuppressants, biologics, medications. Each one of these medications is meant to manage symptoms, yet none of them stopped the disease from taking over. And so he's 76 years old now. He's going to be 77 in about a month. And I have just seen what this has done to not just his health, not just his body, but to his quality of life. And it has had a significant impact on my quality of life and the quality of life of my family as well. So, just watching somebody you love suffer while knowing that there has to be a better way is devastating. And I know that you guys can relate. And that's why I'm here and why I do this, because I've seen firsthand what happens when skin conditions are only managed and the root causes continue to take a toll. And it does not have to be this way. I don't want another child to grow up suffering. I don't want another parent to feel helpless watching their little ones struggle day after day. This journey is personal to me, and I am here to help other families break free from the cycle of chronic skin rashes for good. So I also would like to share with you now, take a moment here. Oh, this one picture is not showing up. Okay, well, there was a third photo here. And anyway, take a moment and tell me in the chat, does your child have skin like this? Or maybe it's even worse, or maybe you're terrified that it could get to this point. If that's you, let me know in the chat. And, I know how hard this is to watch your child suffer, feeling helpless and just desperate for answers. It's heartbreaking, but I want you to know that there is hope and that things can get better. And I want you to take a look at where these kids are now. Maribel. Hey, Maribel, you can relate. And I'm so sorry that all of you are going through this with your children. And, and that's why we're here, because I want to show you that there is a better way and there is hope. And, here are these kids now. Maybe I can scroll back to this slide later in this third photo will pop up. I apologize for that. But anyway, here are the same children now, and look at their skin, the rashes, the inflammation, the itching is gone. And, healing is possible, and a future without skin issues is possible. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to get there. And the key to real lasting relief isn't found in another cream or an elimination diet or another temporary fix. The only way to stop the itching, calm the flares, and truly heal the skin from the inside out is to make sure that the body has what it needs to do all of this, okay? And this all starts with nourishment and making sure that your child's body has the fuel it needs to do everything it is designed to do, including heal. So, take a moment and imagine this for your child. Imagine seeing their skin clear, their confidence grow, and imagine peaceful nights and worry-free meals. And I just want that to sink in. And just how would it feel to finally see your child thriving and not having to deal with what's happening on their skin? And I know that it might be hard to believe, and you might be hesitant to believe that because you've tried so much and you've been let down before. But this isn't more false hope. This is real. And I'm going to show you how to make this happen for your child too. So, for years, I've been helping families just like yours break free from the cycle of the endless itching, the painful rashes, the sleepless nights, and the fear of foods. And as a pediatric clinical nutritionist, I specialize in chronic skin conditions in children. I've helped thousands of kids heal their skin from the inside out so that they can finally feel good in their own skin, and parents can stop feeling like full-time nurses and get back to just being parents again. And I've dedicated my career to understanding and solving chronic skin conditions in children at the deepest level. I have a master's degree in nutritional biochemistry, which has given me understanding of how the body works, what it needs to function properly, and how to restore balance when things go wrong. I'm a licensed dietitian, nutritionist, and certified nutrition specialist. I have credentialed expertise in clinical nutrition, holistic health, and functional medicine. I'm a published peer-reviewed author. My work is backed by science, not trends. I'm a former faculty at Learn Skin, where I trained dermatologists on gut dysbiosis and skin disease. I created a CME course for dermatologists. And then I've also been featured on top podcasts in the field where I share my expertise on healing chronic skin issues in children. And for over 8 years now, I've focused my efforts 100% on kids' skin health. This is my specialty. But what I'm most proud of is that I've created a proven step-by-step system that actually works for kids with these tough skin issues. And that allows children and their families to just get back to living their lives. And your child's skin does not need to control their life or yours. So let me know, drop a ready in the chat if you're ready to finally understand more about why your child's skin won't heal and what we're going to do about it. I'm just excited. I'm not going to wait for you guys to say ready. I'm ready, so we're going to go. But let me share this with you now. So we're going to dive in, and I hope you guys are ready to learn about this. This is one of the things I am most passionate in talking about with parents and people in general is this nourishment piece, because it is really there's several foundational pieces of the puzzle when we're talking about healing the skin from the inside out. But this one is like number one key, and it seems so straightforward, yet so many people get it wrong. So here we're going to dive in. The truth about diet and chronic rashes that nobody's telling you, okay? So in my clinical practice, I kept noticing the same pattern over and over. And this was, many years ago, that the smaller the diet, the worse the rashes, and the longer it took the skin to heal. And this is not a coincidence. And what's most shocking to me is that still, even today and even right now, you can search online and find tons of information about how you need to do an elimination diet to heal your kid's skin. You're going to see cut out dairy, cut out gluten, lower histamines, go AIP, GAPS, or vegan, remove anything that might be a potential trigger. And this advice couldn't be further from the truth. And I'm going to say this. If you've ever been told to jump into an elimination diet to fix your kids' chronic skin issues, whether by a blog post, a Facebook group, a support group, or even a well-meaning practitioner, we're going to challenge that approach like hardcore today. So while elimination diets might seem like a logical first step, they often create a lot more problems than they solve. They can lead to unnecessary stress, fear, nutrient deficiencies, and they keep your child stuck in a flare cycle. Your child's skin doesn't need more restrictions, and it certainly doesn't need more food restrictions. It needs deeper answers that actually support healing from the inside out. So that's why we're going to dive really deep into why food reactions happen and what they mean, which foods actually matter and which ones don't, how to safely expand your child's diet, what testing actually helps. I'm going to show you some case studies and success stories. I'm going to talk you through their testing, so I'm going to show you that. And by the time we're done, you're going to finally understand what's keeping your child stuck and, more importantly, how to fix it. Because the only way to stop the itching, get lasting relief, and take your life back is by restoring balance inside the body so that it can heal from the inside out, not by cutting out more foods. A sip of water. And yes, that is an 84-ounce water jug, in case anybody was wondering what that was. Okay. My goal is to get through one of those like every 24 hours. I get almost there. Okay, so let's talk about skin issues. Now, skin issues aren't a food problem. When kids struggle with chronic rashes, it's easy to assume that the problem's coming from an outside trigger or, food triggers, but the real issue is happening inside their bodies, and that's what's causing their skin issues and their food reactions. So this is why healing your child's skin from the inside out is the only way to stop the itching, get lasting relief, and get your life back. And the skin is the largest organ, and it's a direct reflection of what's happening inside, especially with nutrient status and immune function. And with a lack of nourishment and malnutrition, like from being on a limited diet, the skin barrier gets weak, the immune system overreacts, chronic inflammation starts to fuel itching, redness, and flares. Now, I want to introduce you to a couple actual clients of mine. Names are changed for privacy. So this is Julia. So Julia, her parents had taken her to doctor after doctor without getting any real answers, except to eliminate different foods and try cream after cream, of course. At one point, they did find an eczema specialist who convinced them that food was the root cause. So they did food sensitivity testing, and they were removing more and more foods from her diet, believing that finding the right combinations of food to remove would start to heal her skin. That day never came. Julia ended up on a dangerously restrictive diet with veggies, bone broth, and occasional whitefish. So not only did her skin not improve, but she became lethargic, and she was even falling behind on growth curves. So you can see a before photo of her cheek here. And then also they did the food sensitivity testing, and you can see those results here. And, no wonder her parents were at a loss and so confused. This is lit up like a Christmas tree. And we are going to talk more about what this means in a little bit too. I also want you to meet, so this is Kyle. So Kyle's parents had tried everything as well. So they had done all the conventional blood tests. They made their own detergent. They rehomed their cat. They were trying antihistamines, prescription creams, over-the-counter creams, all organic clothing, all non-toxic household products, personal care products, all the filters, air, water, you name it. And then, of course, they did the food testing that you can see here, also lit up like a Christmas tree. And so they were cutting out food after food after food, and his skin kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so, every time his skin got worse, they were so terrified that it was food. So they kept taking more and more and more out of the diet, trying to find the right trigger. And of course, his skin just kept getting itchier. The rashes just intensified. He was losing nourishment. He also was struggling to grow. And his parents were just becoming increasingly afraid of what to feed him, and they had no idea what to do next. So if this sounds like you also, drop a me in the chat. I know this is, I hear this from so many parents. And, even if you haven't gone this far down the rabbit hole, which I'm glad of the food reactions, because I don't want you to, we're so going to dive into this more. But, I'm so sorry if you've gone through this. And, and even when I talk to parents that haven't gone this far yet, the first thing they ask is, should we do this? Should we do food testing? What foods should we take out? So you are not alone if you have done this or are considering it. And I do want to clarify something too. This testing wasn't something that I recommend. Okay, it was already completed before we started working together, and it was ordered by other practitioners that they had previously worked with. I do not find this testing helpful or necessary. It creates confusion, fear, and stress for parents like you who are already doing everything you can to help your child. And the truth is that these tests don't offer actionable solutions, and they just keep families stuck in a cycle of chasing food triggers and restrictions without addressing the deeper root causes that are actually driving the problem. My focus is always on simplifying and using the right tools, which is the right functional testing, clear protocols, step-by-step strategy. That's how you get real lasting results without unnecessary overwhelm or unnecessary restrictions. And you're going to understand more shortly about this testing and why it can lead to roadblocks. So now, when Julia and Kyle each came to me, we identified a critical root cause problem that we needed to address, which was lack of nourishment and malnutrition. The elimination diets that they were on, that they were using to help with their skin, were contributing to this problem big time. And this kind of testing just perpetuated the problem. And think of it this way. So nutrients are the gas for your child's tank, right? So empty tank, no fuel, what happens? It's like not fueling your car, whether you put gas in your car or charge your car, whatever kind of car you have nowadays, but it's like not fueling your car and expecting it to go. It is not going to. So let's take a deeper look at the main types of food reactions and what they actually mean. So IgE reactions, right? These are our food allergies. These IgE mediated food reactions, they happen when the body's immune system overreacts to a certain food. These reactions can be mild, right? So it can be like hives, and it can go all the way to very severe, like life-threatening reactions like anaphylaxis. So what happens is there's a first exposure. So allergic sensitization happens when there's a failure in how the immune system tolerant and how immune system tolerance is supposed to work. So that functionality, that mechanism fails. So allergen sensitization is the process where the immune system becomes reactive to a normally harmless substance, which is referred to as the allergen. So basically in food allergy, when somebody eats a certain food, their immune system gets confused and thinks that the food is dangerous. It sends a signal to make these special antibodies, these like fighter antibodies, which are the IgE antibodies to protect the body. And these antibodies attach to certain allergy cells, like mast cells, which a lot of you have probably heard of, but also cells called basophils. And what happens is this is preparing the body to attack in case that food shows up again, because again, the body has mistakenly determined that it was harmless or harmful. So the next time then that somebody or your child eats that food that they're sensitized to, those antibodies recognize it right away and tell those allergy cells, so the mast cells and the basophils, to release chemicals like histamine, but other inflammatory cytokines as well. And these do cause symptoms like the itching, like hives or swelling, trouble breathing. It can cause vomiting, digestive discomfort, stomach pain, and serious reactions like anaphylaxis, which obviously, right, need emergency help right away. Now, what I think is really interesting about this too is that some foods have proteins that don't break down easily when we cook them or digest them. And because of this, those particular foods are more likely to cause allergies. So that's why the common allergen causing or allergy causing foods are peanuts and tree nuts and milk and eggs and soy and wheat and fish and shellfish. These proteins are just naturally harder to break down. And sometimes kids can become allergic to a food even if they haven't eaten it yet. So this can happen, for example, if the food touches their skin first. And this is especially risky if the child has skin issues like eczema or even psoriasis with the broken skin barrier. So kids with skin issues, they have that weakened skin barrier, which means things can sneak in through the skin, get into the bloodstream, confuse the immune system, and they can get sensitized this way. So that's why food allergies are also more common in kids that have chronic skin rashes, in particular like eczema. And here's something that's really important too. So if your child doesn't already have a food allergy, so it's actually really helpful to make sure that all of those allergens are included in the diet early on, like when they start eating solids, as long as it's safe for them and they don't have an allergy to them already, because this gives their body a chance to learn that these foods are okay. The immune system in the gut is stronger than the immune system in the skin. So eating the foods first helps prevent allergies from developing later. Now, most of the time, allergic reactions happen pretty fast, like usually within 10 minutes to an hour after somebody eats something they're allergic to. Sometimes the reaction can show up later, a few hours after eating the food. And again, we're looking for these are reactions that are like hives and swelling and trouble breathing. And for some people too, like continued exposure to the foods, like reaction after reaction, it can actually get worse over time. This is really key too, and this is common. So, a lot of parents like, and as you should, keep something like Benadryl around just in case, there's a reaction to help calm it down. But what you need to know, in case you don't, is that Benadryl can hide the symptoms of anaphylaxis. So even if your child seems okay after taking the Benadryl, serious reactions can still kick in once the medication wears off. So always get medical help right away if your child's having an allergic reaction. Like, don't wait, even if the Benadryl seems to help at first. Um, for food allergies, the best thing we can do to manage these, first, get a diagnosis. Like, make sure that if you're going to cut out a food, that there is a medical reason for it, right? That's the best way to prevent an issue with food allergies that are diagnosed. If there's a diagnosed food allergy, listen to your doctor. That's for safety reasons. You might need to carry an EpiPen. And make sure, again, just make sure to work with your doctor, find out if there are actual reactions, if there are actual food allergies, so you know what you need to keep out versus what needs to be kept in. Um, and yeah, so I mean that is really the key thing. Like, we don't want to restrict any more than we absolutely need to. And if something is kept out, it should be for medical reasons. This is really interesting too. Here's like kind of a little clinical nugget. Um, so allergic and inflammatory responses aren't always about the obvious allergen, like even like a food allergen. So behind the scenes, what's happening, like in the body, there's a specific type of white blood cell, and it plays a key role in these allergic responses. So these cells release inflammatory chemicals, which in turn trigger the production of these IgE antibodies, which are the same ones that respond to allergic reactions. And, so again, typically we think of these as set off by like a food allergen or an environmental allergen, but gut health plays a major role here too. So gut dysbiosis can actually trigger this whole inflammatory cascade, leading to increased IgE production and allergic reactions, even when you might not expect it. Like, so for example, and I see this a lot in kids in my practice, like if your child has diagnosed allergies, but you're avoiding their allergens, or if there are no allergies diagnosed, but you're still seeing like hives and these allergic type reactions, and or, in either of those cases, if your child has allergies and they're being avoided, or there are no allergies diagnosed, but like high IgE on blood work, like these are signs that there is something in the gut that is triggering this allergic cascade and producing these IgEs that are resulting in reactions as well. I always think that's fascinating. Okay, let's talk about IgG reactions. So there's so much misinformation about these. So this is like that food sensitivity testing that I showed you for Julia and Kyle. So IgE stands for immunoglobulin G. It's a type of antibody that the immune system makes when it sees something new. That can be a new food, it can be bacteria, it can be a virus. And, some companies sell these food sensitivity tests that check for the IgE antibodies, and they say that they can tell you which foods are causing problems. But the thing is that a strong IgE reaction usually just means that that food is eaten often, not that it's hurting you or your child. It's actually indicating tolerance to the food. So the body makes these IgG antibodies as a normal part of eating and getting used to the food. I mean, in fact, having IgE antibodies might even mean the immune system is working well. So experts, including myself, don't find that IgG reactions mean there's a real food problem. And unlike true allergies, IgE reactions are delayed. So if your child has symptoms, they might not show up for hours or days. And some people think that these reactions might cause things like stomach aches and bloating, headaches and feeling tired, and even skin issues. And there is no solid proof, however, that these IgG reactions are the reason for these problems. And many experts, again, including me, say that these tests are not very useful and can even be really confusing. So should you worry about food sensitivities? The quick answer, no. Okay. These tests often make people cut out foods that don't need to be avoided, and this can mess up your child's gut health. It can weaken their immune system. It can cause nutrient imbalances, nutrient deficiencies, even malnutrition. And all of these things make the skin worse. So instead of worrying about IgG food sensitivities, it's better to keep your child's diet as wide and balanced as possible, focus on gut health and digestion, and work with a trained expert to figure out what's really going on, because it's not the food. I do want to talk about food intolerances also, because these are a little bit different. So a food intolerance happens when the body has trouble processing a food or certain foods, and it does not involve the immune system. Instead, it mostly affects the digestive system. So these intolerances can happen from like missing enzymes. So sometimes the body can't, break down certain foods, like lactose intolerance is an example of that. Some people can have sensitivities to food chemicals, like natural food chemicals, like histamine falls under that category. So do salicylates. And, some people, for example, get headaches from aged cheese or processed meats. But, the issue really comes from, in these cases, like especially with salicylates and histamines, it really comes from gut and detox problems that are preventing proper metabolism and breakdown of these foods, not the food itself. Gut problems also play a role. So if your child's gut is inflamed or their microbiome is off balance, they might not just digest food very well. So if somebody has a leaky gut, for example, that gut hyperpermeability, food particles or toxins from the gut can sneak into the bloodstream and trigger reactions. Here's another interesting tidbit. So during digestion, toxins from both good and bad bacteria increase as they die. And this is a normal part of digestion. It's called endotoxemia. And what happens is, as this natural die-off of the gut stuff happens during digestion, when the gut is more permeable than we want it, so that leakiness, this endotoxemia, these toxins from these microbes get into the bloodstream and can cause delayed symptoms. So parents often think that it's the food, right? Because this is happening several hours after eating, but it's actually endotoxemia, not the food, because endotoxemia peaks several hours after eating, which is the same peak time that we start blaming these delayed reactions on food. Coincidence? I don't think so. So those are just some examples. And again, these symptoms, supposed symptoms show up hours or even days after eating. So it can be really confusing and hard to figure out. And remember, like most likely in these cases, it's not the food. So just something to keep in mind there. And food intolerances also, they don't mean that a food is bad. Just because, a food maybe is causing problems, not necessarily that it's bad, right? It usually just means that your child's gut or digestion needs some support, if something is identified as causing a reaction. But cutting out more and more food isn't the answer, and it's not going to solve those underlying problems that are making your child reactive in the first place. So can you fix food intolerances? Many food intolerances, like food sensitivities as well, can improve and even resolve. Even with some true IgE allergies, I have seen some kids become less reactive over time when we work on healing their body from the inside out. And, sometimes also too, help from the doctor with food allergen desensitization programs. Those can be really helpful for the IgE allergies. And the key really is to figure out what's going on under the surface so that your child doesn't miss out on important foods that might not need to be avoided. I wanted to share some research as well about elimination diets and, just again, showing that they are not the answer and they don't work for chronic skin issues. So again, it's just beyond me why this still pops up as an intervention for people to try. Okay, so here's some of the research papers on this. But so the first one, and it states that it's not proven that the arbitrary elimination of some foods can relieve eczema, psoriasis, or hives in children who don't have a confirmed food allergy. 50 years of research shows little evidence that elimination diets improve eczema symptoms. Diet eliminations may lead to slight, potentially unimportant improvement in eczema severity, itching, and sleeplessness in people with mild to moderate eczema, but that must be balanced against the potential risk for indiscriminate elimination diets, including developing IgE-mediated food allergies. And despite their frequent use, this study noted, we find little good quality evidence to support the use of exclusion diets in eczema or psoriasis. Even if an IgE allergy is present, it's a separate condition from chronic skin issues. The inflammation that is caused by the allergic reaction is what can flare the skin. It's not really the food itself. And there are underlying immune system tolerance malfunctions happening that are leading to the allergic reactions, right? So remember too, that just unnecessarily removing foods increases the likelihood of your child developing a true IgE allergy to that food. And food exposure is key to immune system tolerance. Over restricting can backfire, making your child's body more reactive to those foods later. Okay, let's talk a little bit about food sensitivity testing. So many parents turn to these tests hoping they're going to reveal the problem foods, but remember that IgG reactions do not mean that a food is causing harm. Higher IgE levels often just indicate tolerance to a food, not intolerance. And cutting out foods based on this kind of testing leads to unnecessary restrictions and worsens skin, gut, and immune health. The real issue isn't the food, and removing the foods is not going to fix the problem. And just remember, again, the detection of the specific IgE antibodies is considered a marker of exposure and tolerance, not an indicator of negative reactions. That information was mind-blowing to me the first time I saw it. I don't know about you guys, because it's like, I've been in this field for a really long time. I did elimination diets years ago for my own health stuff. It's like everywhere out there. And, when I first started digging deeper into this and seeing, again, the kids that I worked with and their skin not healing, the smaller the diet got, and so much focus on food. And it's just like the exact opposite of what really needs to happen. So anyway, my soapbox. Okay. So, an elimination diets don't just fail to solve the problem, they create new ones like nutrient deficiencies and slower skin healing. They increase the risk of developing those IgE allergies. They can create a fear of food and a lifelong negative association with food. There was a study, a colleague of mine did this, over 80%, this was in young adults, but over 80% of young adults who followed an elimination diet for their skin issues as children now reported having negative relationships with food. So imagine how this can impact your child's long-term well-being. And then also breastfeeding moms are being misled and told to eliminate foods, despite there's tons of research on this showing that it harms both the mother's health and the baby's health. So again, the truth is cutting out more foods is not going to help heal your child's skin. Chronic rashes are not caused by food, they're caused by underlying imbalances. And the longer you restrict your child's diet, the harder it becomes to reverse the damage. There's some other reasons too why diet expansion is so critical. So I want to mention these to you guys also because they're really important. So kids aren't just smaller adults, they're in a constant state of rapid growth and development. So their bodies require higher levels of nutrients, pound for pound of body weight than adults do to begin with, and then even more for skin repair, for immune system function, for fighting inflammation. So if a child's diet isn't supplying enough, the skin is going to be the first place to show deficiency because vital organs like the brain and the heart are going to take priority for available nutrients. And skin conditions need more nutrients. Kids with eczema, psoriasis, other chronic skin issues need more nutrients than other kids because the chronic inflammation, the constant itching, the rapid skin over dramatically increases the demand for key nutrients. And this creates a vicious cycle because the body's already struggling with inflammation, but the very nutrients needed to calm it down get used up faster than they can be replenished. And also, even if your kid eats a nutrient-rich diet, poor gut health can prevent proper absorption. Kids with chronic skin issues always have underlying gut imbalances. And this gut-skin connection is huge. So if your child's gut isn't functioning properly, their skin is not going to get the nourishment that it needs to heal. So many kids are also picky eaters, right? This is common. So you add that to all of these other reasons why they have a higher metabolic need and need more nutrients. And so we've got picky eating, right? And then we are on elimination diets, right? So again, eliminating too many foods is just going to lead to the nutrient imbalances and deficiencies, which are already an issue with kids with skin rashes. Elimination diets are always going to backfire in kids, especially in kids with rashes, because think about it, like your child's body, it's growing, developing, it needs more, and then they end up getting less. And it just doesn't make sense when you look at the pieces this way, right? It just relying on elimination diets and cutting foods makes no sense. So this is what was happening with Julia and Kyle. Their bodies had a lot of work to do, growing and developing, trying to heal their skin. There was a lot happening in their guts. I'm going to show you their testing in a minute. And their diets were so restricted. So they were missing key nutrients that were critical for skin healing and growth and development. And on top of that, their bodies were burning through so many nutrients faster than they could replenish them because of that chronic inflammation that they had. And I'm going to show you some of that too, because we also did advanced urinary organic acids testing on them. So I've got that to share with you also. So let's take a look at how we finally healed their skin from the inside out. So I'm going to show you exactly what we did to get Julia and Kyle off the hamster wheel of the rashes and flares and their parents off the hamster wheel of food fear and diet trial and error and on the path to real and lasting relief. So we're going to talk about functional testing. I would love to know in the chat too, if anybody's done testing, whether it's a stool test or organic acid testing. Maybe Michelle, I think you had done the food testing. Drop it in the chat. Let me know what you've done. And I'm going to share with you. So this is a GI map. If you've been following me for any length of time, you probably know that this is one of my go-to tools to figure out what's happening underneath the surface. Okay, so we've got several GI maps. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to talk you through some of this. I'll give you some detail here about how I look at this tests as well. And for those of you who haven't done a GI map or aren't sure about what all of this means, this is a comprehensive digestive stool test. This is a professional grade version. It can be done on a child of age. And it's very different from a consumer, like a direct-to-consumer test, very different from something that you can get on your own, okay? Those are not clinical assessment tools and are not helpful for getting to the bottom of your child's chronic skin issues. So get it on your own. Again, it's one of those direct-to-consumer stools that gives you a 50 some odd page report, recommends a probiotic, some diet changes. You get a call with an expert to walk you through it. That's a hard pass. It's not going to give you the information that you need to really get to the root cause of the problem. The GI map looks for harmful bacteria, digestion problems, inflammation. It looks at how well the immune system is working. And this is really key because 70 to 80% of the immune system is actually located in the gut. Skin issues are caused by inflammation. Checking gut health is a key first step to helping your child's skin heal from the inside out. So this is Julia's GI map. So some of the things that we saw here, and by the way, so the gut microbiome becomes mature at about 2 years old. So depending on the age of your child, what we expect to see could look a little bit different. So both of these kids were over 2, so when we did the stool test. So these are mature gut microbiomes. So something to keep in mind. So anyway, so for her, we saw these high C. diff toxins. We also saw a pathogenic parasite. She had high H. pylori, imbalanced commensals. Ideally, I want to see this black arrow in the middle of the green all the way down. We see a couple where she's okay, but imbalanced, mostly a pattern of high. All the bacteria in the gut, about 95% of it falls under one of these two larger phyla. Both are high. So I would say this is probably more of a pattern of overgrowth. We see the low Akkermansia. Akkermansia is a really important bug for building and maintaining the mucosal layer in the gut that holds the gut together, prevents that leakiness where we say leaky gut. This is a fiber fermenter. It usually starts to, so are these guys too, this Fastiobacterium. These usually start to fill in as a kid gets older. So sometimes in somebody like less than 2 years old, I do expect to see these low, but at the same time, I still want to work through all of the imbalances for kids. I'll talk about that in a minute too. So it really is specific to the person and to the age grouping, but generally the way I'm looking at this one, it's probably more of a pattern of high. And for here, this is just where like I would start with diet. And I did start obviously with diet with her because her diet was so limited. So we had to get more fiber fermenters in. I know a lot of those direct to consumer tests out there. I always hear from parents, oh yeah, it said there was low Akkermansia and gave us a probiotic. That is not going to solve the problem. It does not fix all these other things. So I just want to point that out. Also, we see quite a bit of opportunistic overgrowth. Things like Morganella, that's actually a histamine producer. The Pseudomonas are histamine producers here. Mainly here, so is a Citrobacter. Mainly here, like I look at the ones that are high and I look at these kind of as a grouping and I want to, lower levels of the high one because we all have some of this in there. Like the gut's messy, if this was completely clean, like I think that would freak me out because it's poop. It's not supposed to be clean. So some things that I take into consideration for her, again, we see these pathogens this is the first page of the GI map. So we see the pathogens, including one that's a parasite, the H. pylori, the imbalanced good flora, and the opportunistic overgrowth with some histamine producers. So when a plan is created, it needs to take into account all of this. I get asked often, it's like, okay, so, because, for example, and I don't know about you guys, but with a lot of parents, the first thing that would be like, oh my gosh, the parasite, right? So they're just going to focus on worrying about the parasite. Well, you can address the parasite, but that's not going to solve this. It's not going to solve this. It's not going to solve this. So this is why understanding how all of these pieces fit together, because the other thing too, like, yes, the parasite can cause skin issues as well as tons of other issues. So can the C. diff, so can the H. pylori, all in different ways. And you need to address all of these things together. And that's how you resolve what's happening on the surface, by resolving what's happening in here. Okay, that's kind of my quick, not so quick summary. And I want to show you Kyle's too. So for Kyle, we didn't see anything pathogenic on that first page, so I didn't share that here. Had the H. pylori. And here's the thing too, like even in kids with skin issues, a lot of practitioners won't touch this if it's not high because it is considered a commensal, which means like we all have it. It's also easily shared between family members. So are parasites and so are Candida, by the way. But so a lot of practitioners will leave this alone. I always address H. pylori when there are skin issues because it lowers stomach acid, which means it interferes with digestion and absorption. Lower stomach acid means we get more of an overgrowth of stuff we don't want. Lower stomach acid also starts to contribute to nutrient deficiencies, in particular like iron, zinc. So some of these really key nutrients that we need for growth and development and skin healing. So I always want to address H. pylori. Here for him, we did see low levels of both of these guys. Again, those are really important for maintaining the mucosal layer in the gut. We saw the overgrowth too in the phyla here as well. So again, imbalances. So we need to work to rebalance this. Some opportunistic overgrowth, not as much as we saw with Julia. He also, yeah, the Pseudomonas, that's a histamine producer there. This is a big finding. We see the Candida. So in order for Candida to show up in the gut, it has to be significantly overgrown in there. So I often suspect it in my clients, depending on a variety of things, like, including location of the rashes and history and whatnot. So it could be something that I would address regardless if I saw it on here. And again, that's about, pulling the pieces together and figuring out your child's all their unique puzzle pieces. But we do see this here, so that's a big finding, something we had to address. And then with the intestinal health markers, like digestion was low, right? So this is something that we wanted to address. The immune response here. So secretory IgA, these are immunoglobulins that live in that gut mucosal layer. So I'm not always surprised, like if this is low based on the fact that these guys are low, that's a connection. Um, and then we also see the zonulin. So the gut was pretty permeable. So that's a marker for leaky gut. Zonulin's not the only marker for leaky gut. It's the one that the GI map looks for. So, even if zonulin is okay on a GI map, I still would not necessarily think, oh, well, the gut's not leaky, because there are other markers. That's just the one that this test looks for. Okay, I want to show you guys too the nutrient testing that we did. So this is advanced urinary organic acids testing. And so this can be done on kids 2 years old and up. And it checks for important nutrients that your child's body needs to function optimally. So it looks for vitamin and mineral imbalances, organic acids, amino acids, signs of oxidative stress in the body. It helps find hidden imbalances and insufficiencies and deficiencies, problems with detox, neurotransmitter metabolism, which plays a role in like mood and behavior, and also sources of inflammation that could be keeping your child's skin stuck. So this is Julia's, and we see here, this is like, these are the summary pages. This is if you guys have seen an organic acids test, it's like pretty long, and there's a lot of different organic acids that it checks for. So these are the summary pages that pulls it all together. So we saw a lot of oxidative stress. So this means her body has a lot of inflammation and is really burning through those nutrients like we talked about. A lot of those nutrients also are required to fuel energy production in the body. Energy production fuels healing. So she's missing that. Toxic exposures, when we're really low in these antioxidant nutrients and these protective nutrients, we are more susceptible to toxin exposures. And methylation, this typically has to do with B vitamin balance. And this is like a switch that turns things off, on and off in the body. Methylation is. Methylation is really important for like histamine metabolism, DNA. It makes DNA. It's important for detox, all kinds of things. So we can see that she's got like a really high need for support in every functional category that this test looks for. Oh, Jordan, I see your question. I'll get to that in a bit. So then with and so here was the summary of the nutrients that we can see, and everything's pretty much in the red. So they need Julia needed a lot of nutrients in all of these categories. And this is just the energy production cycle. If any of you guys remember from like Science 101 or Biology 101, this was like how the body takes fats, carbs, and proteins and makes energy that fuels everything the body does. So you can kind of see this is what the organic acids, like this mitochondrial dysfunction, is showing. So not making energy very well. So those are Julia's results. And then I want to show you, these are Kyle's results. Why aren't these popping up the way I want them to? I don't know why my slides are not cooperating, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so we can see this slide. So he didn't have as much oxidative stress, but we still see that pretty high need. Same with mitochondrial dysfunction, definitely needed support with those toxin exposures and methylation balance. And I will say, I wish that was showing up. Okay, anyway, so his nutrient levels were not, the needs were not as severe as hers, but still like a lot in the yellow. Like if we look here, like a lot of his are in the yellow and then in the red also. So he also had some pretty strong nutrient needs. And so for both of these children, right, their parents are just spinning their wheels, chasing food triggers, they're removing foods, restricting diets, yet they're still not getting lasting relief. And, these types of findings are why, because the real issue isn't the food, it's all of this stuff happening under the surface, and the restricting diets were contributing to all of this. And, we can see that here on this testing. And in my clinical practice, every child I work with, I see these underlying imbalances driving the skin flares, the itching, the inflammation, and the food reactions. Jordan, the oat test can only be done 2 and up because there are differences in reference ranges for little kids. So they don't basically have reference ranges like for this stuff. So the reference ranges are off. So they won't run them in kids under 2. Yeah. So anyway, so with these types of imbalances, like between these, what we see here, between the types of stuff we saw on the stool test, you can't fix these with food, and you certainly can't fix these with taking food out. So, now with seeing their test results, we knew what the imbalances were that they had, which tells us what our next steps were to solve the problem. And here's the thing about this functional testing too. So reading these results for kids with skin problems does take special knowledge and experience. And, that's where my years of training and successfully helping families overcome their kids' chronic skin issues comes in, because it's not just about looking at numbers on a report. It's about understanding how those results connect to your child's skin health, to their overall health, and turning that information into a real plan that actually helps. Every child's different, and without the right focus, important details get missed. If you've done the right testing, and I see a lot of you guys have done this testing. So if you've done this testing before and you still haven't gotten results, it doesn't mean that you're missing information or even that you need more testing. It just means that you probably need the right guidance to help you piece this together. I've helped many families take those test results right from the right testing and turn them into real solutions for lasting skin healing, even if they've already tried protocols that didn't work before. Again, it's very nuanced. So that was the first thing. So we got the testing for them. The next thing, right? Actually, we started doing this even before the testing. Like I talked the parents through introducing the foods back in. Long story short, anything that wasn't an IgE food allergy that they were advised to keep out by their doctor, we added it back in. Focused on protein, anti-inflammatory foods, and those antioxidant nutrients, and other key nutrients based on their test findings. The cool thing about the metabolomics too, that's this advanced oat test, it shows the nutrients. There's some pages in here, and it's kind of small so you can't see it, but this bullet under each of the needed nutrients, it gives examples of foods that those nutrients are found in. So it's kind of nice way to help expand the diet as well. And if you are wondering about how to add the foods back in and you're not sure where to start, I'm going to make this as simple as possible. The only foods that should stay out of the diet are ones that are medically necessary eliminations, like your doctor advised you to keep them out, IgE type allergy reactions, or foods that consistently cause noticeable reactions that you can pinpoint. If you can pinpoint that a food is causing a reaction, it makes sense to keep it out. It does. That makes sense. And again, we can kind of get some more information from the metabolomics, and we see the examples of the foods that, are important to add back in. So that can be a good starting point for your kid too. Okay. So the next thing that we did, we also helped fix the gut imbalances, and gut protocols are a lot more involved than probiotics and glutamine and something like oregano oil, for example. So, if your child has been on a gut protocol and is still struggling with their skin, just remember that the functional testing, the GI map, it's a powerful tool, but reading the results for kids with skin issues takes special knowledge. It's not just about these numbers or the findings on the report. It's about understanding how those imbalances connect to your kid's gut, to their skin, to their immune system, to their overall health, and what to do about them in a way that actually works. So if the past testing hasn't helped, it doesn't mean that the answers aren't there. You just need the right guidance to help turn those results into real lasting improvements for your child. Okay, so we worked on their guts, and we also, all of the interventions that we implemented were based on each child's unique health history, biochemical data from their test results, and then having this data allows for the creation of a plan that includes targeted supplements, as well as, the diet and lifestyle recommendations. And again, understanding how all of these imbalances are connected to your kid's skin health and knowing exactly what to do about them is really key to getting lasting results. And the bottom line is that The right testing with the right interpretation, the right holistic and comprehensive plan is going to give you lasting results. I'm gonna go because there's so much more I want to share with you guys, and I want to answer your questions too. I'm just gonna go through these slides really quickly because I think these are, I was actually going to take these out, but I think they're kind of interesting because I get asked this a lot. How long does it take to correct gut dysbiosis and gut imbalances? Mild dysbiosis, 4 to 8 weeks. Moderate dysbiosis, 3 to 6 months. Severe dysbiosis, it can be up to a year or more. And so kind of in conjunction with that, right? Because the gut needs to work appropriately in order to absorb all of the nutrients, even if those are from supplements. So we do all of this together. But so nutrient replenishment can, depending on the level of the deficiency, depending on the type of nutrient, it can take anywhere from, a few weeks to multiple months to correct those different deficiencies. And then once all of these things are taken into account, how long does it take for the skin to heal? So I've seen everything from, anywhere from clients getting improvements within, 4 to 8 weeks. And there are some clients, depending on the severity of what's happening with their skin, that I've been working with for a year or more. I would say like that sweet spot where I really start to expect to see results is between 4 to 6 months. And again, a lot of people sooner, other people it takes longer. And it really depends on what's going on, like how long the imbalances have been happening, how severe they are. So there are a lot of things to take into account. And here you can see the results. So for Julia with her before and after, and Kyle. So with Julia, within 4 months, we did see some really good results for her, and her skin was really clear. She was eating more foods, her energy improved. And after 6 months, she was sleeping through the night and she wasn't scratching anymore, and her diet like completely full and normal diet. Neither of these kids, by the way, had diagnosed Kyle had a few diagnosed food allergies. Julia did not have any. So then with Kyle, so we can see his before and afters too. So within 3 months, he had less pain and itching, and he was eating more foods. And then within 9 months, his skin was fully healed. He was eating even more foods, and he was sleeping soundly. And after, so much frustration and the endless diet restrictions and the fear and the trial and error, these families finally got relief, not just for their children, but for themselves too, and they were terrified to add foods back in at first. And I know it's absolutely terrifying because you have no idea what's going to happen when, if your child's skin is going to flare. As their diets expanded, like that alone, even before we did any of the other interventions, like expanding the diet alone helped improve what was happening on their skin, just getting their bodies fueled. And you can see here what Jessica, who's Julia's mom, and Emily, who is Kyle's mom, had to say about their experience. So I do want to share with you too what this means for your child. And, if you're still here, I do know something, and that is that you want to help your child and you want the itching to stop. You want their skin to heal, and you want your family to finally live life without rashes dictating your every move, unless you just came to hang out with me, which is cool, but it's probably not the case. But the truth is, like, healing your child's skin from the inside out is the only way to stop the itching, get lasting relief, and give your child the freedom that they deserve. And your child's skin isn't fully going to heal until we address what's happening beneath the surface. And, the fact that you're here tells me something powerful, which is that you are ready and you've got the determination and the strength to make real change happen. So, the big question is, what is your next step, right? So now at this point, you understand why expanding your child's diet is critical, what food reactions really mean and what they don't, and hopefully have a little less fear around expanding your child's diet, how to uncover real root causes, and how to finally solve them for good. But if you are wondering, how do I safely add these foods back in without triggering a flare? Or, how do I get the right interpretation for this test? How do I get the tests? What supplements, what doses, what strategies are actually going to help resolve all of this, and how do you pull it together without guessing or second guessing or making costly mistakes? And the truth is that, most people can't do this alone, and it's not because you're not capable, it's because the system is stacked against you. likely spent months already, maybe even years, trying foods, trying new creams, jumping from one different treatment to the next, only to have your child's rashes return. And that exhausting cycle ends here. Everything I've shared with you today is not theory. It is not fluff. This is exactly how I've helped thousands of families just like yours with over a 95% success rate. And it doesn't matter if you've been stuck for months or years. If you've seen all the specialists, if you've tried every protocol, or maybe you're just starting out on this journey with your child. What matters is addressing the real root causes the right way so that your child's skin can finally heal. And the best part is that you don't have to wait and you can start right now. And that's why I created Rashes Be Gone, which is my signature step-by-step system that is designed to address the true root causes of your child's skin struggles and help them heal from the inside out without the stress, without the confusion, without the trial and error. It's a structured, science-backed, proven system that gives you everything you need. It gives you clear answers, expert guidance, and real results. And it isn't just about healing your child's skin. It is, right? But it's also about healing your family's life. I've lived it. I know the sleepless nights and the tears and the worry and what it's like to watch somebody you love struggle and suffer. And that's why I created the system to stop the cycle and give your family the peace and freedom that you deserve. And you have two choices. You can keep trying to piece it together and doing things the way that you have and hoping the next thing will work. But if that approach was working, you probably still wouldn't be here. Or you can take action today and follow a proven plan with expert support, clear steps, and a system designed to finally get your child and your family real relief. And the question isn't if it will work, the question is how soon do you want relief? So Rashes Be Gone is designed to take you by the hand so that you can confidently implement a plan that works. It's going to help you take control with confidence, finally stop the itching, enjoy food freedom, and fix the real root causes. No more wasted time, no more wasted energy, no more wasted money, just a clear, proven system to help heal your child's skin from the inside out for good. And I want to be clear about this too. Rashes Be Gone, this is not a course or like a group coaching program. It's a complete clinical support system that is designed to give you real and lasting results. You get one-on-one support over 6 months. There are 4 private sessions. So you get personalized guidance, customized protocols, ongoing plan adjustments, all backed by years of clinical expertise. So no more DIY guesswork. The GI map testing is included. You get tailored protocols, so no more guessing, no more trying to patch things together and figuring out what's going to work. You get a customized step-by-step protocol tailored specifically for your child. You get access to my Rashes Be Gone resource library. So this is everything that I've used to help thousands of families. It's like nutrition guides and supplement protocols and skincare tips and gut health resources all in one place. It's just the information that I've created over the last like 8+ years that I've been doing this work. And I put it into this clearinghouse like library for you so that you have all of those resources at your fingertips. You also are never alone. There is, in addition to the private support, there are live coaching sessions. So over your 6 months, they're twice a month, as well as you get access to a private community of parents who understand and are on the same journey. So no more trial and error, no more overwhelm, just a clear, proven system to help your child's skin heal for good. And, Rashes Be Gone is the most effective way to help your child's skin heal from the inside out. And helping your child's skin heal from the inside out is the only way to stop the itching, get lasting relief, and get your life back. And if you're still wondering if this is for you, if you want to see your child eat freely, if you want to sleep through the night and your child to sleep through the night, if you want to feel confident about your child's future, if you want to stop obsessing over triggers, if you want to stop hearing doctors just tell you they'll grow out of it, or here's a cream, or you're going to have to live with this. And if you just want your whole family to enjoy life again, the vacations, the outings, enjoy the treats at the birthday parties and the holidays, like just everyday normal family moments. If you're ready for all of this and a proven plan that works, then Rashes Be Gone is here to help your child break free from the chronic rashes for good. And, just imagine sleeping soundly through the night like Coralys's daughter. She finally can sleep through the night without the terror of constant itch, and her skin is now clear. Imagine not stressing out about every meal like Jamie's son. He was diagnosed with failure to thrive, and I see this a lot because of his limited diet, right? So he was on such a limited diet due to his skin. They were able to expand his diet. His skin started improving, and he's growing and gaining weight. And, imagine their skin finally healing and not having to constantly worry about creams like Aaron's son. He's doing fantastic. His skin is beautiful. Even during the winter, they hardly had to use anything on his skin. And imagine enjoying the vacations, the birthday parties, and the holidays without rashes controlling everything like Jessica's son. I loved this one. Her son got to enjoy treats at his birthday that year. He had chocolate cake and Rice Krispie treats. And then the next day, even, his skin stayed completely clear. And I'm sure you're wondering, what is this going to cost me? So let's talk about your investment for Rashes Be Gone and truly being able to fix what's under the surface that's causing the problem in the first place so that your child can get results like these kids have and like Julia and Kyle as well. So your investment in Rashes Be Gone, this is a life-changing decision. It's an investment in your child's health and in your family's future. And just imagine life where rashes no longer control everything and your child feels comfortable in their skin and your family can finally enjoy peace and freedom and a normal life again. The total value for everything in Rashes Be Gone is over $12,000, but that is not what you're going to pay, not even close. So you can get the entire system of Rashes Be Gone. It's $39.97. There are payment plans available, so you can start for just $1,500, and you can literally start right now. And I do want to talk about a bonus too, because we all love a bonus. So when you join, and at the beginning, I promised you a little surprise for hanging out with me. So thanks for hanging out with me today. So that bonus is that I'm going to include the urinary organic acids testing for you. That's a value of $500. Normally, Rashes Be Gone just includes the GI map, which is, essential to uncover the gut imbalances. But right now, I'm gifting you the urinary organic acids test because having this in addition just gives us really powerful information to holistically create just a very comprehensive plan for your child to address all of these major root causes that are showing up on their skin. So you can get both of the tests, the stool and the urine. And again, right, these tests give us the biochemical data that we need. No more guessing, no more trying to piece things together. Instead, this allows us to connect all of the dots and build a truly personalized, data-driven plan that pinpoints the exact biochemical imbalances unique to your child. This bonus, so this is not going to be around long. I'm going to offer this to the first 3 people that sign up by Monday, which is the 31st. So from right now, and you guys are the first hearing about this, when I'm going to send out the replay of this afternoon. And so this is also going to be opened up to everybody that I send the replay to. So you're hearing about it first because you're here. So first 3 families that decide to join by the 31st, I'm including the organic acids testing. So if you're ready to say yes to real answers and expert guidance and, extra support tailored specifically to your child, now is the time. And, remember with Rashes Be Gone, this is not another course. This is not a coaching program. It's a complete clinical support system with the one-on-one support. The testing is included, tailored protocols, so no more guessing. You get access to the Rashes Be Gone library and then ongoing support in addition to a community of parents on a similar journey. So no more trial and error, no more overwhelm, just a clear, proven system to help your child heal for good. And, just a couple more success stories that I wanted to share with you that you can see here. So we see Courtney's story. This is Courtney's son here. And then this is Alex's daughter here. So, we can see Courtney, they got results that they didn't think was possible. And, 5 months, everything had changed. His skin improved dramatically. He was eating a wide variety of foods. He was growing like crazy. And he was just happy, thriving, and no longer constantly grumpy and itchy. He was able to wear shorts and t-shirts to school. And they've mentioned, they said that they truly feel like they're meeting their son for the first time because it had just been so life-changing for them. And then, so Alex's daughter, within 9 months, her skin looked amazing and she wasn't itching or scratching anymore. She no longer had a bloated belly and her digestion was much improved. She was eating well and expanding her diet, and then her energy and playfulness skyrocketed. And they said that even their pediatrician became a believer in an approach that didn't rely on steroids or extreme food restrictions. And she said Jennifer's expertise and support guided us through the stress and anxiety of managing our daughter's eczema. She helped us stop chasing food triggers and focus on real healing. And we can't thank her enough for helping our daughter, our entire family, get our lives back. So again, yeah, it's just such an honor to do this work. And I just feel so grateful. And again, thank you, you guys, for being here too. And you can literally get started right now and give your child the relief that they deserve. And, remember, you get the entire system. It's $39.97, or you can start for just $1,500. You get the bonus $500 value for the urinary organic acids testing, and no more time wasted, no more trial and error, no more frustration, just one clear proven system, one decision, and life-changing results. And, maybe you're thinking, can I afford this? Well, flip that question. What's the real cost of staying stuck where you are? Every moment spent guessing, every cream, supplement, or protocol you've tried, sleepless nights, every meltdown or missed party or tear-filled moment, it all adds up. And not just financially, but emotionally and mentally and physically. And, the longer it goes on, the more costly it becomes. And you might also be thinking, what if this doesn't work for my child? What if it does? What if this is the moment that everything changes? What if your child finally gets lasting relief and you finally can stop the guessing, the worry, and the endless stress? You've seen families now like Julia and Kyle's and these other parents who are exactly where you are right now, wondering the same thing. They took this critical step and now they're on the other side. I've helped thousands of children who are stuck in the same cycle, and I'm here to help yours too. So the real question is, 6 months from now, do you want to still be searching and be stuck and feel unsure? Or do you want to look back and know that this was the moment you took action, the moment that everything changed for your child and family? Time is the one thing you can't get back. And every day that your child continues to struggle, that cost grows for their skin, their well-being, and your entire family's peace. And this is your chance to break that cycle, to stop second guessing, to follow a proven plan, to get expert-led support that works, and to finally get your child's skin and your family's life back on track. Your child deserves relief now, not more trial and error. And the truth is, what you can't afford is to keep waiting. So your next step is simple. You can take the next step and join me inside Rashes Be Gone. Let's take this step together towards real lasting relief for your child and your family, because the truth is that healing your child's skin from the inside out is the only way to stop the itching, stop the flares, and finally get your life back. And Rashes Be Gone is the most effective way to make that happen. I'm going to drop the link into the chat so you guys can read more and get started. And I see some questions, so I'm going to answer those in a moment. So there's the link to Rashes Be Gone. And you have a choice, and it's like, maybe your child's healing, is going well. Maybe things are on track and you're getting improvements, and that's amazing. And if deep down, though, something is still missing and the flares keep coming back, and if you're still, feel like you're second guessing or searching or still trying to piece things together, then this is your moment to stop the cycle and finally get that expert support, the clarity, and the proven system you need. And you don't have to stay stuck wondering if there's more you should be doing. Let's get your child and your whole family on that path to lasting healing and freedom. And I just want to show you a couple more before and afters too, that have come out of my proven system and the work that I've done with my clients. So this is in the way. Boop. Okay, so this is Caitlin's daughter and this is Greta's daughter. So you can just see here, Caitlin, they had tried everything, but this is what finally worked. After 3 months, they saw dramatic improvements in her skin and no more constant scratching. She had a full and varied diet without the fear of reactions, full night's sleep for the first time in years, and a newfound confidence. She was wearing short sleeves and shirts and dresses again. And the biggest blessing, Caitlin said, was watching her daughter thrive without suffering every day. And her only regret was not starting sooner. So if you're struggling, and she says, if you're struggling with your child's skin, Jennifer can change your life. And then Greta's story, nothing was working until they found me and this approach. Um, and let's see. So within 2 months for Greta's daughter, they saw a drastic improvement in her rashes and her skin and overall health as well. A reduction in her anxiety. She had a lot of anxiety as a child. And then also they saw healing that they never thought possible. So, and then she said that Jennifer's compassionate guidance helped us move past endless food restrictions and failed remedies to real lasting solutions. And we are beyond grateful. So you have seen how this approach can change lives. And I've shown you that here today. And I have seen it happen over and over and over, and it can happen for your child and your family too. And that's why I'm inviting you to join me inside Conquer Your Child's Rashes to make this happen for your child and your family. And just imagine being free from the itching, your child wearing what they want, eating all the foods, and just living life to the fullest. And imagine your family thriving and enjoying life without the constant stress and just living life without skin issues. And it can happen. And it can happen for your family too. All right, okay, I'm going to answer some questions. Thank you guys for hanging out. Let's see, Heidi. Okay, so Heidi, you did some hair allergy testing and GI map 6 years ago. My eczema comes and goes. It seems to return in winter and gone in the summer. So Heidi, hair allergy testing, that's interesting. I would say climate, and of course I don't know about your case. Climate can definitely play a role. Something that I find with my clients, and Heidi, you're in Kansas, so it's pretty dry there in the winter. Winter dryness, that climate change can really, and this goes for, everybody's children as well. And I do see this a lot, like a lot of people's skin worsens in the winter, the dry weather, the cold weather, that starts to impact the filaggrin protein in the skin, which is the protein that helps build and maintain that skin barrier function and helps the skin make its own natural moisturizing factors. Lower humidity, cooler temperatures can interfere with the production of that protein in the skin. And people with eczema tend to have low filaggrin with or without a genetic mutation, because it can be a genetic mutation in the gene that makes that protein. But generally, if there are chronic skin rashes like eczema, like psoriasis, filaggrin is going to be low because of the inflammation on the skin. And then the dry weather can worsen that. So, some strategies to, of course, keeping the skin topically moisturized can be really helpful. But healing, in terms of healing from the inside out, protein-rich diet, making sure there are enough amino acids, in particular one called histidine, not histamine. This is different. Histidine is really key for building and maintaining that filaggrin protein. And as an amino acid, it's found in protein-rich foods. So that might be something to try if you haven't tried that yet. Jordan, what's the reason? Oh, so the oat. So we talked about the oat. The reference ranges aren't available for kids, nutrients for kids less than 2 years old. So that's why the oat is 2 years and up. The GI map can be done at literally any age. Maribel, thank you so much. Around 5 years ago, I stumbled across one of your YouTube videos and saw you are one of the very, very few I have ever come across that mentioned the healing the inside. Healing inside is the only way to heal. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. Oh, you found me on YouTube. That's so cool. I don't do a lot over on YouTube, but I'm really glad that you found me there. I do most of my posting and sharing of information on Instagram. So if you don't follow me over there yet, that would be a good place too. That's where Yeah, I do most of my posting there. A lot of it is educational and tips. And, I share when I'm doing these trainings and things like that too. So make sure to follow me there if you're not yet. Kim, can you read the results of the tiny health stool test? Oh, I'm glad you asked about this one. So, okay. So when I was talking about the direct-to-consumer stool testing not being a clinical assessment tool, this is an example of what I was referring to. Um, I actually received an email from a potential client. I think it was this morning, actually. It was somebody I met with that was maybe going to come on as a client. And they decided to go with the tiny stool test instead. I did not have this conversation with them because it did not come up on our call. So unfortunately, okay, long story short, the tiny health test can provide some interesting information. It is not considered a clinical assessment tool, so it is missing some information that is critical for getting to the root cause of the problem. Can to specifically answer your question, can you read the results of the tiny health stool test? I have used that test to create protocols for some clients in the past. Sometimes it has worked, and that is because I know what I'm looking for with kids, with their skin, and based on the history. And I've been doing this so long that I can figure it out. I will say the results that you get with the GI map are much more straightforward and much better to base recommendations on. So I would highly recommend the GI map. So I hope that helps. There are other professional grade stool tests out there that I find really helpful. So the GI map is my go-to. That's the one that I use. GI effects from Genova Diagnostics is a good one. Doctor's Data, I'm not even sure, to be honest, if the lab is still called Doctor's Data. It used to be called Doctor's Data. I think it still is. They had like the DD360, that one was good. And then Nutripath. They do have that in the US now. I think that's by some, I forget the lab that that's from, but Nutripath, that one was really popular overseas, like in Australia. So that one is pretty good too. So there is a difference between the clinical assessment tools, the professional grade stool test, and the direct-to-consumer ones. Generally, the direct-to-consumer ones tend to be not super helpful and not give us the information that we need to really solve the problem. I hope that helps. Jordan, I see a lot about cutting eggs out when it comes to skin issues. So we tried it and I feel like my daughter looked a lot less inflamed. You could still see the rashes. They were more dry and not as red or widespread. After a week and a half, I decided to have eggs 2 days in a row. And by that second night, she was covered in fiery red rashes all over her body. Is it possible that just me eating the eggs was enough to trigger her rashes that bad through my breast milk? Very good question. There are so many nuances here. Um, you know, it's possible in very sensitive kids. Yes, as an allergen, those are the ones, like eggs are one of those proteins that don't break down as easily with digestion, with cooking. So they can get more easily into the bloodstream, transferred through breast milk even. It kind of actually takes on both sides, right? Like mom's gut has to be kind of leaky, baby's gut has to be kind of leaky. But that said, and this is one of those examples, like if you can pinpoint it's the eggs, it makes total sense to keep the eggs out. But the other thing too to keep in mind is that, it could be a coincidence, and very often I do see that it's a coincidence. So, if it's something that you want to test and keep out, what I let people know, like it's totally fine to experiment and leave things out for a short period of time. But if you've cut something out and it's been out for like 2 to 3 weeks and you really haven't noticed a difference, or you've cut it out and the rashes come back, add it back in. It's not the food. Often, especially with eczema, we have these flare cycles, and then that can coincide with anything. So what happens is the dysbiosis, the stuff in the gut, these are like little microbes, right? So they have pretty short life cycles. So when they're growing and proliferating, not many are dying off. This is usually where like, oh, the skin's looking pretty good. Oh my gosh, it's looking good. Great. then these things start to die. They release toxins, they overwhelm little bodies. And then this is where we start to see the flares, right? And then it's like, so this happens. And then, oh my gosh, the skin is healing. Why? Because not as many are dying off. And then so we're on an upswing and then they start dying again. So very often, if you're seeing these cycles, it tends to be, in my experience, what I've seen in my practice, it's a coincidence that it's correlating with these foods, in particular, if there is not an IgE allergy to those foods. So I hope that helps. It's so nuanced. But Jordan, I would say, like, leave it out for a little while, take it out again. You can leave it out, see, and, see if she's going to flare within a couple weeks, without the eggs. So you can kind of experiment that way. And I know we've talked, and I apologize, I don't remember if you've done the allergy testing or not. But and again with allergies, like the reactions that I'm really concerned about are hives, swelling, trouble breathing. Those indicate an IgE type reaction, which we need to be cautious with. If we're experiencing an eczema flare, which is troublesome, so I'm not, doing anything to negate that because it's awful and we want to avoid that. But if, there's more redness, there's some itching, may or may not be the food. And generally, again, keep in mind too, that even if it is something like allergic, what we're talking about is that the inflammation that reaction is causing is what's triggering what's happening on the skin. So it's not exactly the food itself, even if it's an allergy, it's this inflammation that's getting triggered. I hope that helps. Heidi, what are your thoughts on eczema that seems to improve when taking antihistamines? Could it be too much histamine in the diet or seasonal allergy exposure? That's a really good question. So eczema typically isn't, most cases of eczema aren't histamine related. If you do notice an improvement with antihistamines and it's actually helping with the itch, it could be that the body can become a histamine producing factory. Like I pointed out on the GI map, some of those microbes in the gut are histamine producers. So if you have any of those, that can contribute to the histamine overload in the body. If you're also eating a lot of histamine foods, yes, that can contribute as well. Typically, if there is an actual histamine issue, it's stemming from just overload of histamine. Detox issues and how histamine is broken down can also play a role. And I don't mean DAO. There's an enzyme that many of you might have heard of. So DAO is an enzyme in the body that breaks down histamine. When we're struggling with, itchy skin and stuff happening on the skin, it's not typically that the body can't break down histamine or metabolize it. It's just that there's too much. So, so we can lower levels of it. So if you are noticing that histamine is a trigger, then yes, it makes sense to lower levels of high histamine foods that you have in the diet while you work on finding these root causes of the issue. I hope that helps. Heidi, I did want to mention before I forget, I don't know if you know Jennifer Fugo, if you know who she is. She's actually doing an eczema deep dive training tonight. She works with adults with skin issues. I don't know if you know who she is, but look her up. I could probably quickly find a link. She's a colleague of mine, and it just so happens she's doing a deep dive on eczema for adults tonight. So you might want to check that out and see. Okay, so I just wanted to throw out that there. Okay, so Jordan, one more question. If mold is the main trigger for somebody's rashes, is working on the gut alone enough to help baby heal? Granted, they have been removed from the moldy environment. Really good question. It could be. So the way I look at mold is that it is not a root cause. I'm going to say that it is not a root cause, it's a trigger. Because why is somebody's immune function more reactive and why is somebody struggling when, other people aren't? It takes me back to what's happening with that person. What is happening inside that is making their immune system more reactive? That takes me to their gut because that's where 70 to 80% of the immune system is. And then that also takes us to the nutrient status, right? Because that's the fuel for the engine that runs everything. So once out of the environment, I would say typically between working on the gut and the other foundational steps that I work through with my clients, which by the way, like, when we work together, we do the gut piece. But so like I'll break this down. So we work on skin barrier from the outside in. We do, ways to support the outside while we're healing from the inside out. So we do the skin barrier support, make sure there's enough nourishment so the body has all the fuel it needs to do everything it's supposed to and heal. We work on immune, so lowering that inflammation and supporting antioxidant status. A lot of that's based on the organic acids test that I showed you. We work on detox, make sure that the body can effectively eliminate toxins. That does not mean juicing, cleansing, and herbal supplements for liver for kids, by the way. I'm going to have to do a training on detox. I think that might be the next one because I know people are interested in that. I don't know if you guys are, but I'll put out like a survey or something. But anyway, safe detox for kids is what you see out there is often really wrong. So that's not what I'm talking about when I say detox. And then also we work on the gut. So between those 5 core root cause buckets, that's what I find helpful, even if mold is a trigger. So regardless of mold or allergies or whatever is happening out here, this core set of interventions that I work through in Rashes Be Gone, this is my proven system, is what helps heal from the inside out. And it's those foundational pieces because we're not really like, for the rest of our lives, your children, our lives, we're going to be exposed to things, right? So the goal isn't to like live in a bubble because we can't, like, and that would just be miserable. I mean, we can, but we don't want to live that way. So it's like we have these imbalances and then we have somebody's body. This doesn't need to be perfect, but we do need to work on this and knock down main things and, help from the inside out, like function. But what we're really doing is working on that person's immune function and boop, we're trying to find that sweet spot and that balance where somebody's body can tolerate like whatever comes at it. So that's really what we're working towards. And that's what the pieces of the puzzle and the pieces of Rashes Be Gone focuses on. So long story short for your question, if mold is the main trigger, we got to work on all of these things. So working on the gut by itself, this is another mistake too. Like the person I mentioned that went ahead and is taking the tiny health test approach instead of this holistic approach, that alone probably is not going to solve the problem. So you can't just work on the gut either. It's an important piece of the puzzle, but that's also where a lot of people get stuck. Like, oh, got to do the gut. The gut alone is not going to solve the problem. I hope that helps. Michelle, adding to the breastfeeding question, we've done the GI map and IgG test, started a protocol, glutamine, etc. I've cut out some of the larger sensitive foods temporarily. When would you suggest putting them back in the diet? Well, see, good question, Michelle. My approach is very different, especially when nursing. That is prime opportunity to make sure that your child can tolerate foods. So if it's not an IgE allergy, I wouldn't take it out of the diet at all, yours or your baby's. Glutamine is not something that I use in my practice. I know everybody uses it for gut healing. I do not. I don't find it super effective. And I would say I would add the foods back in now. Taking foods out also does not heal the gut, by the way. Not only do food sensitivities mostly show tolerance or that a food is eaten, not that it's a problem, but healing the gut, like foods did not cause the leaky gut, and taking foods out does not heal the gut. So it's just it's backwards from what you're led to believe. So again, if there wasn't an IgE allergy, I don't see any reason why they can't all just be added back into your diet. I hope that helps. Krista, my son doesn't have major rashes per se. He has bumpy skin like keratosis pilaris, but more recently it's been worse around his neck and face, and they flare up and pop like a zit. He complains a lot. He has recurrent SIBO as well as a history of some GI imbalances like H. pylori, as well as E. coli. Would this program be a fit for him? Yeah, it absolutely would, Krista. Really good question. Keratosis pilaris absolutely has a gut component. Some of the main things I think of with that too, and we could always get into this when we work together. But the first things from a nutritional perspective that pop into my mind would be gluten intake, would be, vitamin A, levels of vitamin A. And then of course, different kinds of gut imbalances. And it sounds like he has a lot of them. So, with the SIBO and the history of all those things in the gut, then yeah, this absolutely would be a good fit. We'd be able to do a GI map, and get them on a personalized plan, and also the nutrient testing as well. That could be really interesting because with all of those gut imbalances and the KP, which can be related to nutrient imbalances as well, it would probably give us some really good information to get both tests. So this would be a really good opportunity. Yeah, I think this would help for sure, Krista. Yeah. Jordan, absolutely doing a training on detox. There's so much conflicting info out there. It's confusing. Yeah, I think I'll do detox next. There were some other things. I had detox in mind. Also, like something I need to go through like all the different testing, right? Because between the mycotoxin and the food testing and the hair testing, like there's just so much stuff out there, and just quick preview. So I'll do one on this someday too, because I think it needs to be said, but there's just so much confusion because there's so many different tests out there. So what really matters, right? These tests, the GI map and the advanced urinary organic acids test. I mean, GI map, number one, but again, remember that it's not just about the gut imbalances. Yes, those are key to resolve. You've got to look at them all holistically, but you've got to take into account these other factors too, right? Like we got to manage skin barrier function. We have to help that from the outside and from the inside out. We've got to make sure your child's nourished. We've got to work on the inflammation. We've got to work on detox, and we've got to work on the gut. So it's really a comprehensive approach that is going to heal from the inside out to get those lasting results. So that's why too, like if you've done, just the stool testing and you're on a plan and you're doing like all the right things, right? Like the probiotic, the glutamine, but it's not solving the problem, it's because there's still pieces missing. Yeah. Heidi, my 11-year-old son has been fighting molluscum for 7 years, and we've tried so many ideas, also gets KP. Yeah, Heidi, this would be another opportunity where GI map, if you haven't, like skin infections, I work with a lot of kids with the KP, with the molluscum, with impetigo. I work with kids with all sorts of chronic skin rashes. Eczema happens to be the most common rash in kids, which is why I see a lot of eczema. But I also work with kids with psoriasis and hives and the different skin infections. So Heidi, yeah, I mean that I would absolutely do a GI map. He's 11, so I think the nutrient testing would be a really good move as well. And then something else to keep in mind too, and I always think this is interesting, we do share our microbiomes with people we live in close proximity with. So, if somebody has candida, if somebody has H. pylori, if somebody has parasites, we pass these things back and forth, and they might not be a problem in everybody, right? But we share them. So that is something to keep in mind also. Yeah, and I do see a lot. I do work with a lot of people where, I work with the family in general because they're multiple kids. And it is interesting because sometimes on the testing, sometimes there are similarities and sometimes there are differences. But, when there are differences, you can kind of, well, I take into account like, oh, well, this kid actually had candida. We didn't see it on the other one's test, but it's easily shared. So I'm going to make sure that we do something holistic just in case. Yeah. So I hope that helps. All right. Any other questions? You guys are troopers. Me for a long time. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. Really, thank you. We went very long, so I appreciate your patience and being here and sticking it out. And remember that your child doesn't have to live with the chronic itching, the shrinking diets, or the fear of what the future holds, and you don't have to live in the stress and the overwhelm and the guilt. And there is a way forward, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. So I would love to have you join me inside Rashes Be Gone. And I'm going to drop this link in there again. And remember, if you join the first 3 people that join by Monday the 31st, I'm going to include the advanced urinary organic acids test as well. So that'll be included. And when you go to the checkout, by the way, you might not necessarily like see it there, but I'm including it. So, if you have questions, you can just like reach out and let me know, but it will be included for you. All right. Any other questions before we hop off today? Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to send out the replay this afternoon, and I can't wait to see you inside Rashes Be Gone. Thanks so much. Oh, Maribel, I'm going to send out the recording as soon as it's ready this afternoon. So it takes a little while to process. I've been talking for a long time too. So as soon as this is ready, I'm going to send it out, and it'll go out via email. And I'm assuming since you registered for this, as long as you registered for this, you're going to get the recording. So I'm going to send that out via email. So you'll see that in a little bit. Yeah. Thank you guys. It was great seeing you. I appreciate it. And I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.